Welcome to Control Talk Now for the week ending July 26, 2015. My name is Eric Stromquist. I'm here to welcome you to the Smart Buildings videocast and podcast. I am joined, as usual, by my co-host, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to another week of Control Talk.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'm glad to be here. I love this stuff. I'm excited about today's show because we've got so many important things to share with the Control Trends community.
We really do, Kenny. And if you follow Control Trends, you notice we didn't have many posts up this week. That's because we were busy. So this week's show, we got some very special treats for you. Actually, a guest in studio we'll introduce in just a couple of seconds. But Kenny, pretty productive week in Control Trends land, huh?
Yeah, I'll say, Eric, we accomplished two very, very important events. The first one involves our in-studio guest, which I'll announce here in a second. And the second is one of the most important events that we have on our annual basis, our fourth annual ControlTrends Awards show in Orlando. We have the time and location and some very exciting news.
I'll tell you what, why don't we just go ahead and hit that before we introduce our guest? Because, Kenny, it was pretty darn prolific. I tell you what, you and I flew to Orlando on Thursday. We got up about 4 o'clock, hit Orlando. We inked the deal on the site for the 2015 ControlTrends Awards. Buddy, I couldn't be more thrilled. What about you?
Well, it is so important to try to put this, first we want to thank our sponsors who make this possible, but with this opportunity we had, we tried to pick a venue that gives us the greatest foundation for what we're trying to do. And that is recognize the heroes, the superstars of our industry, give a venue that provides that kind of environment, that Hollywoodish environment where we have red carpets, and just to give people in our industry something special to remember for not just that night, but for all times. I mean, we're putting this into a digital environment that's going to go into our Control Trends Museum, and but this is the place that's going to really, it sets a new standard. It takes it to the next level, and we can now say for certain that the 2015 Control Trends Awards will be held at the Orlando's Hard Rock Live, located at the doorstep to the amazing Universal Studios. Hard Rock Live is home to music history and the most befitting venue to celebrate the heroes and superstars of our HVAC and building automation industries.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Kenny, and we, of all the locations we've had, this takes it to a whole new level. It is absolutely spectacular. You're going to walk across a bridge at Disney. You're going to have all this around you. You're going to walk into the venue. The Hard Rock is, like I say, the biggest, coolest venue we've had. And our platinum sponsors are going to be able to treat their guests to a very, very special treat. And, Kenny, was that just unbelievable when we were able to negotiate and get that into the package, which is, if you go upstairs, there's an exact replica of John Lennon's apartment at the Dakota where he and Yoko lived. And our platinum sponsors can be able to host their guests up there pre-show, champagne, drinks, and get a tour of the John Lennon apartment. A lot of the stuff that's in there is actually real. Some of it is replicated. And then from there, you can step out to the balcony, and you're overlooking Disney. That time of year in Universal Studio, it is going to be magnificent. And part of the thought process there, Kenny, was that a lot of our platinum distributors, they invite their customers in a day early for the AHR show. So we're having it on Sunday night. So the thought process there is, if you've got customers coming in, you come in, we can have a magnificent dinner at the Control Trends Awards. You can have a once in a lifetime experience. Get to go up and visit the John Lennon apartment. It's going to be great entertainment value for your clients and your guests. And then after that, you get to participate in the 2015 Control Trends Awards.
I agree, Eric. In the past, we've done some very special things, and we've done some, planning that worked in our favor and produced a very great event. But this one here, we have to give special thanks to Zulika Alvarez. She's the sales and marketing manager that is helping us to take this to the next level. She understood what we did. She reviewed some of our previous shows, and her ideas, like you said, she really helped us negotiate the best, the biggest bang for the buck. But I think what happens here is that with this John Lennon thing, first of all, I'm a music fan, Beatles fan, and this thing gave me rush. I mean, it was like walking through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. I've been there several times, but this is amazing. You and I walked past the Dakota building where where John Lennon was fatally shot, and and we had that special the heebie-jeebies when you walk by, something like that. It's just, and then to go into this specialized take where Yoko Ono donated keepsakes to put this into a permanent museum-like environment, and we'll be able to share that with people with champagne glasses, and that'll be the precursor to the ControlTrends Awards. So you can imagine how this thing is going to build in a dramatic fashion. But once again, thanks to Zulika Alvarez for taking care of ControlTrends Awards.
Well, not only that, thanks again to all of our platinum sponsors. They're listed on the ControlTrends website. So many people committed early this year, Kenny, and it really allowed us to take that funding and invest in creating. This is going to be the most spectacular ControlTrends Awards we have ever had. It's going to set a new standard. It's going to be a lot of fun. So again, thanks to all of our platinum sponsors, and the ControlTrends Awards are going to rock and roll this year, Kenny. I'm just thrilled about it.
I sure am too, Eric. And so once again, I think the video kind of really captures some of the the enormosity of the venue. In other words, this is where Bruce Springsteen played, Cyndi Lauper. I mean, anybody that you could think of in rock and roll has had left some either signature on a wall behind, and some of this incredible memorabilia is going to be very accessible to the people in the General Assembly. The Platinum sponsors have a special opportunity to maximize their customer relationship in a great networking area. I mean, this could be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun, Kenny. And I tell you what, it's again, thanks so much to our sponsors. It is going to be absolutely spectacular. And Kenny, I tell you what, that was the big event. The deal is inked. So mark your calendars now. And reach out to your platinum sponsors. Let them know you want to be there. Let them know you want to be to participate in the John Lennon thing for sure. We should be able to get all of the platinum sponsors guests through there. But hey, never hurts to sort of book your space early, so to speak. So that's good stuff, Kenny. The other thing went on, man. We had probably the next most spectacular event that happened, and we got our in-guest studio. So let's introduce. Kenny, let's introduce our guest and get him on, and let's start talking about one of the topics and trends we've been covering for a while and is going to keep getting bigger and bigger, which is cybersecurity.
Certainly, Eric. The top three trends, cybersecurity has risen to the top of the apex, the very most important thing we're talking about. And I'd love to introduce our cyber evangelist and cybersecurity advocate, Mr. Fred Gordy, who has been so generous with his time and with his knowledge, and he's helping us to address some of the serious limb facts we have with cybersecurity. Fred, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Fred, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, guys. Thank y'all for letting me come in. I want to thank ControlTrends for the opportunity to spread the message, and I can't wait to talk about what we did this week. Just getting to know you guys a little better, and then also we had an opportunity to spend some time with Marc Petock.
Yeah.
And we're just going to talk cybersecurity and just no holds barred.
Well, absolutely, Fred. And you have been instrumental in not only educating our community, but educating Ken and myself just about just rampant this is running. And I tell you what, you saw I've got a Tesla in the driveway, and Tesla updates all their stuff, via wireless. And let's talk first of all about why my insurance rates are going up. What happened this week with the Jeep Cherokee, right?
Yes, it was. The thing is, when I first heard about the Tesla firmware update coming out over the air, that paranoid side of me thought of you first, because that's a vulnerability. I know these guys are going to do everything they can to keep the a secure connection to your car, but still, using the Jeep Cherokee for an example, because that's one that I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at that, and you guys that haven't, all you need to do is type in the search window for Cherokee hack, and this week. But that kind of really brought home the point that, and I got to say, the guy that was in the test, the guy driving the car, he took his life into his own hands.
He sure did.
Even though it was a controlled experience. Like I say, check it out, because the guy is literally going 70 miles an hour down the interstate, and these guys who are sitting on their couch hack into the system. They turn up the air conditioning first, they turn on some hip-hop music, and then they just cut the Jeep off. And, they also had access to the steering. They didn't do anything about it. And then it kind of finishes up with the guys disabling the brakes. So, you've been on my mind when the announcement about the Tesla. Beautiful car, but that's a vulnerability that you're going to have to keep in check.
Well, it really is, Fred. And how hard? I mean, how hard was that hack?
The particular hack, it's from what I can gather from watching the clip. Of course, none of us know without being there, but based on the things that I saw them doing on their computer, it wasn't a large stretch. I think anybody who's somewhat technically savvy, that you could sit down and probably about 30 or 40 minutes of playing with this particular stuff that they built, you could do it too.
Well, I tell you what, Fred, I think there's so many misconceptions about vulnerability through building automation controls. And I want to ask you a question right off, because I was talking to arguably one of the guys in our industry that knows more about building automation controls than anything. And I mentioned to him, I said, well, you know, what about this? He goes, nobody's ever hacked through a Jace before. That's just, you know, it's a misconception. You shouldn't care about the Jace. You shouldn't worry about it. I'd like to get your opinion on it. I mean, how does that work, and how you know, well, first of all, is that fact or fiction that nobody's hacked through a Jace and gotten through to the rest of somebody's system?
That's you know, to answer that holistically, technically, yes, they have. Now, have we heard of a national experience, a national situation where, you know, information was stolen and all that? We hadn't heard of it yet that we know of. And as a sidebar, let me mention that one of the statistics that really was scary to me the first time I saw it is the median number of days that somebody's in your system is 243. So it's not to say that it hasn't happened, you know, an actual hacker did it. But it's been proven time and time again that it can be done. Now, taking that in consideration, you know, when you hear the mindset that, well, nobody's ever done it or it hasn't happened, that's a false sense of security. And that's that sense of security that we as controls, integrators, vendors, so on and so forth, have permeated for the past 15 years. That mindset has got to change. Yeah. And, you know, the article that I just posted on ControlTrends, it's called Patching Humans. That's a prime example. That, no offense to this guy, but he needs to be patched. Yeah, yeah. And
well said.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, well said. I love that article. You know, that was your third of or fourth article. But yes, I love the way people need patched as well, because they need updated. I needed updated. I needed the patch that you gave Eric and I back, you know, about a month or two ago, where you got the wheels turning. But you're absolutely right. People themselves, their understanding, their awareness of cybersecurity needs upgraded.
Well, you know, and the thing is, let's just say 10 years ago, so in that particular era, if you want to say, is the office worker, the control vendor, whoever the case may be, cybersecurity was the responsibility of IT. And we still have that misconception that is who's going to take care of us. The reality is, and you can go and look historically at the big hacks that have gotten out, those hacks have happened because a human either clicked an email he shouldn't, put a thumb drive in his machine that he shouldn't. So again and again, every one of us, not just the IT people, but even everybody who has anything to do with the company, has to be diligent 24/7. And there are even some tests. I did it with our company, SmartCore. I sent out a little test to see if you would, how our guys would do. And what it was a simulated phishing attack. And if you don't know what phishing is, that's an email that's sent out to various different people, and they want you to click something because it'll embed code in you. But anyway, this little test, and I would encourage people, it's on McAfee's website, is try it yourself. You know, I hate to admit it, but I always like to be real. I scored 80%. My boss got 85%, but a couple of the other guys, you know, they were in the 60s. Yeah. So.
Well, speaking of that, I tell you what, one of the things we're very interested in doing on ControlTrends, with your help, Fred, and Kenny's help, is we'd like to create, if you will, sort of a cyber security test your knowledge little test, right? Not to, you know, point anybody out, but we could sort of select, you know, you'll fill these things out and answer the questions. We can sort of get some stats for our industry about how educated people are and what they know. I mean, I know before, you know, we met you, we thought black hats and white hats were just fashion statements, right? So
exactly. Exactly.
Well, I think I just want to review a couple things because we get a lot of people. And Fred, you posted terminology. I think so. What you're doing is you're doing the seminal work for our industry, and I think it's very important to say that we're not talking about cybersecurity as a jack of all issues, master of none. We're talking about building controls and building control systems. And that's like a vertical slice about cybersecurity as it applies to what you refer to as operational technology versus informational technology. I have a wonderful document here in front of me that explains that a lot of people don't understand exactly what we're talking about when we say cybersecurity because, again, they didn't get patched. But, information technology provides the processes and the transmissions and provides information. It's an enterprise-wide infrastructure. We use a GUI, a web browser, terminal, and keyboard. The ownership belongs to the CIO in the IT, and it's about the corporate network, and it's about, financials. It's about customer data. Where operational technology controls or monitors physical processes and equipment. It's event-driven, real-time, embedded hardware, electromechanical sensors, actuators, and coded displays. It involves a different set of owners. It involves engineers, technicians, operators, and managers, and it involves the control networks that are put onto the enterprise networks. And that's where I don't think people really and truly make that transition. I think the work that you've done, you have 4 articles, I think, people you need to read pre-act or react. And it's a great question that Fred asks. How are you addressing your organization? Are you going to wait till something happens, or are you going to take the initiative now? And then patching humans, and then the 2 terminologies which I use. It's on ControlTrends. These are very, very readily accessible. And Fred, I think that the information, like you were saying about your own network or your own organization taking tests, Eric and I used your queue, and we came up with about 100 questions for cybersecurity testing. Some of them I thought maybe were too juvenile and infantile, but then you remind us that no, a lot of this stuff is very fundamentally misunderstood. Why don't you go into some kind of better explanation of your articles and what you're trying to do with our particular slice, our building solutions, our building control systems?
Well, let me come back real quick to the survey first. I think that's an awesome idea, and we'll all work together and get that out there, because it's really hard to deny when you take a look at something like this. I call it taking a temperature of the industry. So I would encourage anybody that's listening to please participate in the survey, because what we need to do is we really need to get a read or a temperature on how our industry is doing right now. And I mean, I can make some general statements to say, and I think we would all agree that we're probably in pretty bad shape. However, I think that based on the Realcomm event that just happened recently and some other things, I'm hearing cybersecurity talked about. Now we need to start acting. But yes, I think this survey will really go a long way to help us take a read on that. Now, what was your other question?
The clarification of information technology and operational technology, and how I think what you basically educated me was that we can't talk about all things. We want to focus in on what we do. We put
Exactly.
web-enabled controllers on the internet, and we don't understand what we're doing.
Exactly. One of the things that and it hadn't been a whole lot of resistance, but when I first start talking to anybody, the first thing that that is already in the cybersecurity world, not that they're belittling our industry in any means, but they immediately assume that, let's don't reinvent the wheel because we've already got it figured out. And for those of you, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the term SCADA ICS. That is while it's a control system, it's more oil and gas, electrical power grid, PLC kind of type of controllers. Those methodologies to protect those are different, not significantly different, but different enough that what we need to do is really begin to focus on what it takes to secure a building control system, a data center control system, and those type of things. And you're absolutely right, Ken. I mean, it is an animal in and to itself. And I think, we all saw this week the openness of certain institutions around here to realize the fact that even though that they've been heavily involved in SCADA ICS, that the building control systems are different.
Well, Eric, the second reason why there was a sparsity of Control Trends posts this week was because we were able to attend one of the most important meetings that I can remember because, again, we track the trends. The top trend at this particular time in our world is cybersecurity. We had the incredible opportunity to meet with Georgia Tech's Research Institute, a gentleman named G.A. or Fred Wright. He's a PhD. He's Deputy Director, Chief Engineer of the Cyber Technology and Information Security Laboratory, and his colleague, the Director of Business Development, Douglas Hornaday. And we got to see and hear an amazing depth. These are the true experts. These are the industry leaders that work with the government, the military, the Fortune 100s, and they know cybersecurity. Now, the catch here to me is the educational process that Fred mentioned, where you have information technology and you have operational technology, and they're not the same. The ownership for informational technology belongs to the CIO and the IT director, where the ownership for operational technology belongs to the engineers, the technicians, the operators, the managers, the facility managers, and the systems integrators that we work with. And I think the key here is that, and what Fred's trying to do is we're taking, instead of the macro look, we're looking at the micro. We're looking at our industry specifically.
Yeah, Kenny, you're absolutely right. And I think one of the things we love about Fred is always looking for solutions to how to solve this. I think education is key. Fred, along with Marc Petock from Lynxspring, and Marc and Fred, to me, are the two people in our industry that are really sort of staying on top of this and really trying to come up with solutions. For our listeners who might know, Lynxspring has a product called Cyber Pro, which actually is a great step towards this. But I think, in our conversations with both Fred and Marc, there's sort of the need for, how do we get people educated, like you said, Kenny, very specifically towards cybersecurity vis-a-vis building automation controls. And, both Fred and Marc came into town. Stromquist and Company is a distributor of building automation controls products. We're very concerned about, how to educate our integrators. Kenny, DMS Controls Group up in Pittsburgh, you guys are distributors of building automation control products as well. You and I, from just that perspective, not our Control Trends perspective, are very concerned about how do we educate our systems integrators. So, Fred, and I want you to tell the story, Fred, about how this gets set up. But so when Fred and Marc came to town and set this meeting up with Georgia Tech, Control Trends immediately, wearing our Control Trends hat, we came on and saying, we will help promote the event that Fred's getting ready to tell you about. And then both Stromquist and Company DMS Controls Group are going to step in and help promote it too. But Control Trends is very pleased to be the first media sponsor on board. And I think there'll be many, many more. Ken Sinclair, I know you're probably listening to this. You're going to want to hop on board with this, as well as Ron Zimmer at Caba, Jim Young, the rest of the crew. Because Fred, what you and Marc are talking about putting together, I think is very specific, very needed. So with that, tell us a little bit of the story about how you sort of got this set up and what's going to be happening, I think, next March.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. And Ken. This started in a conversation that I had with the director at Georgia Tech Research Institution Cyber Division, and his name is Bo Rotoloni. And I was actually at an event where I was the only non-lawyer there. And I listened to him make a statement that hit me between the eyes, even though I knew it intellectually. He made the statement that this is cybersecurity, or better yet, the attacks, cybersecurity or cyber attacks, are a problem for which there is no solution. And so, I'm a kind of guy that, first off, I believe that there's a solution to any problem. But I have to agree with him. There is not a end-all, be-all solution for this. But however, there are a lot of things that we can do in education of ourselves. So what I did was approached him, and he put me up in touch with Doug Hornaday and also Fred Wright. And these guys, gave me a lot of opportunity to kind of go through how control systems work, not just how they work, but how they're implemented and how the standard, what happens today. And, these guys have been involved in ICS and SCADA, and they recognize that, yes, there is a hole and that we need to fill it. And I was very encouraged by the fact that people such as himself really saw that this is something that needed to happen. And so, I have had the opportunity to work with Marc Petock. He and I I call it, we're the yin and yang, so to speak.
Yep.
because I focus more on the social aspect, the human patching aspect, and he's with the Cyber Pro, that's a hardware software solution. So he and I have been talking quite a bit. And of course, my interaction with you and with Ken, this just made a whole lot of sense that we need to put together an educational summit, if you will, not a vendor showcase, but where when the people come in, they actually walk out of there with something that they can go back to their facility and do. And so we're looking at March, somewhere near the end of March 2016. Georgia Tech has opened their facility to us, and they actually are going to participate and do some real-world scenario workshops and that kind of thing. And I can't emphasize enough, please, 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 this is not an IT conference. This is a OT conference. This is a building control conference. So you don't have to be, you don't have to be an IT guru of any, you don't even have to know IT, because a lot of the things that we're going to teach you is how to change your thought processes.
I think it's brilliant, and very specifically what you and Marc are envisioning, very, very specifically for the building owner, the building facilities manager, the systems integrator that needs to, so you're not going to be indoctrinated with a whole bunch of stuff. And it's interesting because I think that the sponsors you guys have reached out to so far, it looks like there's a lot of momentum with that. They're okay with having it be educational. And then Georgia Tech, Kenny, I mean, they've got a cyber lab up there where they just hack all kinds of systems and stuff like that. So it looks like you guys might be able to get a tour of that. So some real hands-on experience where you can maybe even actually hack a system or whatever.
Well, I think Doug has made it. I mean, he wants to have people come take a look at what they have there. And, I think you'll find it very fascinating is the fact that, you will be able to see these things happening. You will be able to, kind of put a face to the enemy, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I think, the incredible thing here is that, we've had some terminologies, security through obscurity, it can't happen to me. This putting your head in the sand thing was kind of like our way to do it. Ignore it. Somebody else's problem. And we're seeing this turn around 360 or 180. We're now seeing this coming directly to us, that anybody that's involved in somebody's network, if we're taking the lead role in providing a solution for building automation, we need to know about the cybersecurity. Now, we have this opportunity where we can we can bring things down specific, like you were saying, Fred. You don't have to be an IT guru. You don't have to have a degree in information technology. What you have to do is know that you work in a building, and your building now could be hacked, and if they hack it, you could have an event that could be catastrophic or it could be minor. But you have to have preparations and you have to have plans. So if it does happen, what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to call? Where's your checklist? And people don't even have zero response capabilities right now. And I think what you're doing is your educational process begins with the awareness, giving people some really simple, basic, low-hanging fruit things to do, all the way up to getting insurance, doing a risk assessment, risk management, because the people that do get hit find out that they're not prepared, and it's a disastrous situation that some companies won't be able to recover from.
Well, along the insurance line, and I'm glad you said that, is another thing that we hope to do with this conference, and thank you again, ControlTrends, for really getting behind this, because, helping us get the word out. But one of the other aspects of it, it's not going to be just something that a building engineer is going to learn from. It could be a C-level or, a building owner, that kind of thing. And those types of, we'll have some parallel programs going on, and some of those are going to involve insurance and legal. And why are we going to do that? Well, there's been a proliferation, let's just say, of cybersecurity insurance that's hit the market. And not to sound like a broken record, but, you got to be careful. I put this in an article that some of these policies are very specific. And, I use the analogy, you have to die at 4/24 on the 15th of a month in order for it to pay off. But so, I know, Ken, you've got some information about insurance and some of the cyber stuff.
Sure do. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's a small world, and we came out of that meeting on Wednesday night, and I was definitely I was both concerned and relieved because at first I didn't know how bad it was, and then I realized through your work and then seeing that there was a whole another league of play, that these people are responsible for getting us all informed to protect our infrastructure. You know, everybody has a role to play here, from the smallest, strip mall to hospitals to schools. You know, so this goes in and out of business. This goes through the mush market, municipalities, university schools, and hospitals. But it also involves, places where you're controlling, the flow of water. I mean, so the call I made was to my daughter, who's an actuary. She works at Travelers, and I said, what can you tell us about it? And she said, geez, that's amazingly, you talk about serendipity or synchronicity or whatever. Travelers Insurance has just released just a cyber division of insurance. And I'm on that website right now, and they have information that it becomes immediately accessible to all industries and business sizes. They have what they call a cyber risk and cyber first. And these are insurance policies, like you said, Fred, where they give you the onus is on you to decide what to do some of the homework, to determine your risk and liability. And they have broad cyber liability and expense reimbursement to cover complex needed technology companies, all the way down to the small business, where you're getting. That's probably it's almost in our building where you have a lot of vertical buildings. They represent 10-15% of our market, and the rest of them are small buildings. And that's probably where our sweet spot is. And Eric, you're so right about Stromquist and DMS Controls Group and other distributors. We have a role to play, and now we've got some good tangible information. We can refer to Fred's checklists and Fred's support, but also now we're going to be able to provide if people do need to get insurance. There's insurance companies have divisions and.
Well, hang on, Kenny. I want to make a special announcement right now that Stromquist and Company in the very near future will be offering cybersecurity policy with your building automation system. I'm being somewhat facetious, but I could see that. Who better than a building automation controls distributor to offer that as an option? So I think we could see that. I think to your point, and you made an interesting statement too, Kenny. I think you said that your daughter said this is the hottest potential growth area for insurance companies. They're seeing it. Absolutely, because look at the events, and look, we have these formulas. We're going to put these in that test. We took Fred's examples, and we took your checklists, Fred, and we converted a lot of them into questions to give people some sort of a cyber quiz. What do you know about what do you know about cybersecurity? But we have these formulas: risk times liability equals what you should be paying for insurance. Because Target, for instance, now has, I believe, the total damages are at $1 billion minus the $300 million insurance they had. There's $700 million to the red. And so, everybody's gonna have to decide how they're gonna do it. But you need formulas, and you need things that these tables that actuaries are prepared to do, and that's what insurance companies are all about. So, based on your vulnerability, based on your risk assessments, you can get a specific policy now that hopefully, like you said, doesn't have any kind of tanglewood in it or whatever. But I just got an email from my insurance company that the insurance on the Tesla just went up tenfold.
Well,
are you serious?
No, I'm teasing. But it's coming. It's got to be coming.
Absolutely.
Think what your auto insurance companies are going to, if they're not thinking about that, they're nuts, because it's just a matter of time before somebody hacks into a car and, locks the doors and.
Well, please, I want to interject something, and I'm a little hesitant to do it, but along that same lines of, your car insurance going up is, and we talked about something on Wednesday, and this little evil bit side of me, spidey senses or whatever you want to call it, is I'm trying to remember the exact thing that we were talking about, but I can use this as an analogy, is some of the contracts and stuff that I read, which I get an opportunity to see some very interesting contracts, and I'm telling you the cyber language is being put into about 80% of the contracts that I see. With that said, there's some of these contracts require the company to have a cybersecurity. In other words, let me back up. A vendor to this particular building owner or whoever they're building the building for has requirements in there that say your company has to have verifiable annual cybersecurity awareness training programs. Okay, again, using the little paranoid, whatever you want to call it. is that's a segue for an insurance company to say, we're not going to pay because you hadn't been doing your cybersecurity awareness training.
Yeah.
And that's all speculation. Now, that's me just talking. It hasn't happened, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, you know what'll happen because the lawsuits are going to be just phenomenal, and insurance companies are notorious for looking for the loophole. And I think this is hopefully, Fred, part of what you guys are going to be hopefully getting covered at this Cyber Summit that you're going to be having in Atlanta, because I think what the integrators need and the people on our side of the house need is they just need straight answers. Because I tell you what, you look at some of these contracts, and if you don't know what you're looking for, and like I say, you've seen the documents, I guarantee you if a cyber attorney's writing a document for an insurance company or somebody else, it's not in your best interest.
Oh, it's not. It's not. I mean, go ahead, Ken.
Well, I just, the information that we're providing, according to Travelers' brand new Business Risk Index, cybersecurity rose from the number 5 threat in 2014 to the number 2 threat perceived by business leaders, with 55% most concerned about malicious and criminal attacks. And what we have now is we actually have a perspective provided by the insurance company of who's getting attacked and what the implications are, and how serious and costly they are. I could read it from these tables or whatever, but the payment card industry, credit cards, financial, non-cards, others. So you have others: education, entertainment, financial services, gaming and casino, healthcare, hospitality, media, nonprofit, and professional services. Now, what's happening is our databases are getting hacked, and then when people find out that their confidential information has been leaked, not necessarily even to somebody that's going to hack in and try to go after them individually, but selling their information is a form of hacking, where they're taking these confidential files and this data, the data mining areas that were previously confidential now being exposed out to the internet. So these are astronomical claims. These aren't little claims. These aren't like the fire burnt half the building. It's going to cost $500,000 to repair it and bring it back to new, make it whole again. These are perceptual things. These are things where a good lawyer is going to go out there and he's going to nail somebody and put them out of business for every dime they have, because the HIV records for this very sensitive area has been sold to somebody that other people are willing to pay to get that information to impact their
Dude, just that point, I mean, the Ashley Madison site that got hacked, and I know nothing about Ashley Madison other than what I've read, but Ashley Madison apparently is a website where married people go, they put their profiles up and they hook up with other married people, right? Well, that got hacked, right? Mm-hmm. So they're putting that information out about, some married guy, they got married. Now, if it's me or you or Fred, nobody's going to care, but some senator or something like that, I'm telling you what, you gotta have a feeling that, the insurance industry is seeing cyber attacks as a big boon for their industry. The legal industry has just got to be just doing backflips over this thing, right? I mean, Think about the lawsuits and the liability and the damages that are going to go into that. I mean, right, Fred?
Exactly. And you bring up a good point with the Ashley Madison thing, is not all hacks are for the sake of taking a system offline.
Right.
It's not for the sake of even, credit card information. That particular hack, I don't know. There's people have classified it different ways, but it's, it's blackmail.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And then just this week after that one, the U.S. Census Bureau got hacked. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
No.
Yes. I mean, the information that these guys got wasn't anything that, it doesn't look like it was anything really that can help the hacker, but you need to understand who it was and what their motivation is. And if you haven't heard of the hacker group or the hackavist called Anonymous, you need to check them out, because these guys have no financial motivation. They are strictly, their protest is through hacking. So what they were doing was letting the government know, we can get you.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is when we're talking about all these different things that are hacked, and the Ashley Madison, the Census Bureau, and those kind of things, I'm always concerned that people in our community, when they hear that, they say, well, that's another industry that doesn't have anything to do with this. You've got to remember that a control system is and can be a jumping off point for the corporate network or whatever.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And that was the case in a lot of these banking, professional services, manufacturing, transportation, healthcare. In other words, we've got to help educate our folks and things that we're responsible for, so we're not creating that pivot point or jumping off point.
Well, yeah. Let's clear this, because that was one of the first questions I asked you at the beginning of the show. About the misperception. Nobody's done anything through a Jace.
Exactly.
So I see two things that could happen. Number one, through a Jace, you're controlling heat and air conditioning and stuff like that. You could lock all the doors. You could turn the heat up. You could do all kinds of stuff to disrupt your clients. I mean, imagine at Disney or something. You're having an event. I mean, somebody could let's not imagine that at all. Let's imagine let's imagine something else.
Well, hey, let's go to Stuxnet, the actual thing that happened.
Yeah, talk about that, Kenny.
Well, again, Fred, you probably know more than I do, but the way I understand it was a USB thumb drive introduced into a PLC that introduced malware. The malware caused the centrifuges to operate improperly, very similar to a compressor turning off and on and the head pressure not being relieved. This thing caused these things to wobble and shut down and basically run until they were kaput. And that to me, again, it seems like it's magic, but it's not. It's reality.
Well, yeah.
Tell us, how do we learn from that? I mean, what does that mean to us in our industry?
Well, first off is I want to interject something. You brought up that we talked about Stuxnet, and there's debate as to who actually originated the virus. But so I'm not going to go there. But what I will say is the persons that came up with the virus were controls guys. Okay, and I hate to say this because you watch TV and when they show a murder, it's like, well, you're giving them an idea on how to do it. Reality is every programmer, which I am one, could be a bad guy, because what Stuxnet did was basically mimic a good operating system. And when it got a kind of okay, this is how the system should look if it's running correctly, then Stuxnet turned that on, the little video like Ocean's 11, and then ran everything until it just flung it apart. Where is it going to? Let's go back to the car. We're not that far from having, and we may actually, may have actually already happened, we just don't know it yet. But we're not too far from having one of these attacks kill somebody.
Yeah. And
I'm not trying to scare people, but you need to be aware that it just only escalates.
Oh, no, it does. So that's number one. So, I mean, think about like a restaurant chain. Let's say you want to mess something up. So you lock all the doors because you can get to the access and security. You turn the heat up. The clients can't get in. They can't get out. You can just make people miserable. And, anybody that has a building or a store, I mean, part of that experience is the environment. So you could just be disruptive with that. But to the point about talk, Fred, if you would, about sort of the jumping off point. So now I got a Jace or something. Somebody comes in via my building automation control system. Talk about how a scenario in which they could jump from there into the internal network.
Okay, there's a couple of ways, and one of them is, and this is one that I'm sure we're all familiar with, is building control system went into a building. It's on its own standalone network. All the controllers and everything are hooked on that network. The people inside the building, or the actual tenants or whatever you want, they want to see it. So the fix for that is one of two ways. Is you either go in and you stick a second network card in there and you bridge the two networks. So now what happens is anything that's on this network could bleed over into the other network. Now, if you add another layer to that, to where this control system network is on the internet, and when I say on the internet, understand it's not just that it's public facing, but it can get out, okay? If these people can access their network from inside the building and then go home and access the network, the building control network, that's a wide open door, because now you can inject things into the control system that could possibly, and more than likely has already happened, has bled over into the corporate network. That's one way. Another way is if it's totally segmented, meaning you have a control systems network and it's not attached to the corporate network. That same thing, when I say injecting, what that means is there's bad code put into the control system. So you as an outside user, if you access it, all you got to do is touch it. Most of these control systems download a payload to your machine where that bad code can come in that way. So those are are easy. Those are things we know for sure happen and can happen.
No, well said, Fred. Well said. And I think that, the good news is, people like Niagara and people like that, they're aware of the problem. They're taking steps to do what they can. But I think at the end of the day, like you said in your human thing, it's going to come down. If you're an integrator and putting stuff in and something goes wrong, you're going to be in that liability chain. So I say you better be educated and you better, understand what you're signing when you're signing these documents and the paperwork and stuff like that. And again, I think that's where you and Marc and
that's a bingo. I think you need to emphasize that. We need to talk about that a little bit more, Fred, is what Garrick said. What happens is like in the old days, like let's say we sold a solenoid valve, water valve, and somehow it leaked and went through the drop ceiling and caused some discoloration, and the customer gets upset and they sue the contractor. What happens is the contractors in that suit, that little, that goes contractor, distributor, manufacturer, and even though we had nothing to do with it, and the solenoid valve stuck open because there was grit or some kind of debris that prevented the seat from sitting down, we were part of that. And our insurance company had to make a contribution to the remedy. So you're exactly right. There's going to be a string. It's not going to be any one person. It's going to be anybody that had insurance or was supposed to have insurance. So we're seeing this evolve. That's to me, that's the critical stuff. That's why what Fred's doing is such the seminal documentation now is giving everybody that wake up call and a call to action. What we need now is like Jim Young says about technology. Technology's here. It's been here. We just need people to realize it and budget it. Fred, let's talk about the budget for a second. This is all about the dollars. And out of sight, out of mind. That kind of budgeting is so famous for security. For instance, when everybody's scared, they're hesitant to put a bunch of money into a budget to provide contract security and additional beef up security. But the second that pain subsides, boom! First thing off the budget will be the security measures. Cybersecurity now is, like you said, it's never going to go away, and so we need to introduce this economic reality where you're going to do your risk liability equation and budget for it. You're going to start getting insurance. You're going to start having a cybersecurity awareness program. You're going to have a cybersecurity internal champion that's going to monitor your compliance. You're going to have somebody that's going to go around and check people's passwords every month, right?
Exactly right. And one of the things as it relates to budgetary is you need to start looking at this a little differently. If you're a systems integrator, it's not a thing that you necessarily can monetize. I had somebody ask me that one time. How do you monetize what you're doing? To me, it's a cost of doing business now. It's not something that you can, I'm not saying you can't, but it's not like you go into your customer and say, we can put in a control system, and oh, by the way, we can make it secure for an additional fee. Well, you got to kind of figure that in going in. So that's an aspect of it. From a company who supplies a service, or hate to pick on Target, but in that particular case, again, cost of doing business. But there's another layer there, even for the system integrator, is brand damage. See, you can't put a value on brand damage.
That's true.
Because if I can sit here and, there's a stat that says the average cost of a breach is $145. I mean, some people say it's more, some people say it's less. Well, you multiply that times 1 million records, it's $145 million per record. Okay. Even when you take that into consideration and using what you talked about earlier, Ken, where Target got $300 million and they have to make up the other $700 million. How are you going to make that up if you don't have any company? Because nobody wants to do business with you.
Because they don't trust you.
Sales are down, right? Yeah. The confidence is lost. The consumer's going elsewhere, right?
Exactly.
No, very well said. Very well said. Okay, so Fred, really, really great stuff. We're sort of getting up against the time. Hey, Fred, now you're with SmartCore. Tell us about what you guys do.
Well, SmartCore is a unique animal in the fact that they take a holistic approach to network as it relates to not only the control side, but also access control, surveillance, fire, life safety, that kind of thing. But at SmartCore, we are a Cisco house, and the guys that I work with, I got to give them a lot of credit. They know a lot more stuff about networks than I do. I've been out of the IT world since 2000. But anyway, so what we've started doing is, again, taking that holistic security approach to a network for customers to put in the control system and that kind of thing. But we also, we've got a thing we call Smart Secure, and it's basically an auditing service. And we'll go out and take a look at your network. So you don't have to go learn everything. I mean, we want to teach you to do it yourself, but also we can come in, take a look at your network, your control system, and then we can give you basically a punch list that you need to take care of. So that's and that's more of my focus at SmartCore. That's a little bit about what we're doing.
Oh, that's really, really cool, Fred. Well, listen, it's a great organization. We met Wen at the Realcomm IBCon. Looks like you're working with some great people. And listen, so how do people get hold of you guys? At smartcore.com, or if somebody wants to do one of these audits, what's the best way for them to get hold of you guys?
A couple of ways is our new website's up now, and it's smartcore.com, but you're more than welcome to contact me directly at fred.gordy@smartcore.com. Very,
very, very cool. Well, Kenny, I tell you what, it's Control Trends is one of the trends we're tracking. Is very, very important that we continue to get awareness of. So, Fred, you guys have our 100% support with the Cybersecurity Conference in March. For our listeners out there, hey, Atlanta's a great place to visit. March, it's usually pretty darn warm. I think you guys were saying it was going to be kind of short, where you can come in maybe on like a weekend, spend the weekend in Atlanta, hang out. You sound like maybe a Monday, Tuesday afternoon, you're back out, something like that.
That's what we're shooting for, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely spectacular. So you have 100% support from the Control Trends community, and I feel sure that when guys like Ken Sinclair and Ron Zimmer and the rest of them find out about it, they're going to get behind this as well.
Awesome.
So that's going to be great. And I think it's important enough, Kenny, that what our proposal, I want to cycle back down to the Control Trends Awards real quick. Kenny, with your permission, what I would like to suggest we do is to bring awareness to this. I think at the 2015 Control Trends Awards, Fred, because of all the stuff you're doing with the community, we'd like to invite you to create a cybersecurity superhero award, whatever you want to call it. But basically, instead of a product, it would be an individual that is, forwarding awareness in our industry vis-a-vis cybersecurity, and that will be your award to name and to give out.
Guys, thank you. I mean, that's an awesome opportunity, and Control Trends has always shown that they are a thought leader, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And as we were sitting here and you were saying that, kind of a humorous note, my boss uses this term, Fred, you've been pushing rope for about 4 years. And I don't know if you guys understand what that means, but when he told me that, I was like, you're absolutely right. So maybe it's not saying this is the name, but the Push and Rope Award or something. But basically what that means is you're pushing. You don't have to be an IT guru to get this award. You just have to be a champion and a strong champion of making our industry better.
Well, I tell you what, through you and Jim Young and others, we've met some of these people. I mean, like Billy the Kid Rios. I mean, there's so many great individuals that are really sort of specialized. I think you're going to have a hard time picking a winner this year.
I'm going to tell you, the opportunity to get to know these guys has been just, I couldn't have paid for it. Billy Rios, Terry McCorkle, Monzi Mirza. I mean, I could go on and on. But these are the guys who, the way I look at it, they're the SEAL Team 6.
Yeah. Well, we've talked too, Fred, in the past. Kenny and I want to give you wide berth here, and to all those names you mentioned. Look, we got a studio here, as you see. We can bring more people in, but people either in studio or via Skype. Please let those people know that through you and through us, they have a window into the BAS world, and for our community out there. Please to help support these guys as they do this stuff. The Cybersecurity Summit is going to be spectacular. We will keep the community posted on that, but we're going to be in March next year. And Kenny, real quick, we can't quite see, but a special thanks to our girl Zalika. Stand up so everybody can see the shirts we're rocking here. Stand up a little bit so we can get them
all right.
There you go. All right. So got the Hard Rock Cafe shirt spread. I think if you come back in studio, it's going to be the official garb if you're in house in studio. So Zalika, I think you said you were going to watch the show this week, so we need to get a shirt for Fred and our guest. And Kenny, I tell you what, when you talk about people that just rock professional, This woman was unbelievable professionalism. She took us around. It's like she walks us. She wanted to buy us lunch at the thing. We're going, no, that's cool. We're good. We just say. Then she takes us to the store and we got to get you something from the store. And you and I are thinking that she's just trying to sell product. And it kind of you try this really cool hat on and on. We're looking at the price and. She goes, whatever you want. And at Dom, I go, Kenny, she's going to comp us this. And so, we opted for the 2 shirts. But
Alvarez is, you're right, a consummate professional. She loves her job. That passion thing, we call it passion factor, that we always look for when we're trying to see if these are the people we want to work with, and they really, truly embody the organizational values that we do. She had it. Bingo. She loved her job. She knew everything. She knew how to turn lights on. She brought the stage around for us to get better lighting so we could shoot the video. Very accommodating and very knowledgeable, but passionate about what she like she said, she did her homework. She watched a couple of our previous shows. And to me, right away, that's what I wanted to hear, because then we didn't have to explain everything. She knew we were trying to create the boom. We want to create a bigger-than-life moment that, is going to last a year. And these people are going to come up on that stage and win an award. There's going to be disappointed people out there because they're going to compete for it, and they're all great. So when we talk about how everybody's a winner, anybody comes in this venue here has a ticket to come in, particularly
You're going to be getting an award on the same stage as some of these great bands and performers. You're going to be on the same stage getting those awards. So it's going to rock and roll. Can't wait for that. Again, special thanks to our ControlTrends Award sponsors.
We got one post we got to cover.
Oh, let's hit it. We
got the new power meter from Dent Instruments, and you did an interview with Mr. Tim Van Slambrook, you talk about passion again too. I'll just very quickly summarize Dent. These guys make some of the finest metering equipment in the world. They have their Elite Pro series. They have their Power Scout series. They sell smart loggers, current transformers, and software. And I'll tell you what, wasn't he a dynamic individual that we met at the CGNA meeting?
Well, very dynamic individual. Dent Instruments is one of the preferred vendors at CGNA. And Fred, back when you were doing big data, you hear it all the time. You did a lot of energy metering and monitoring your time too, I'm guessing.
Yes, I did. I did a whole lot. That was kind of more or less my primary focus at the time.
So did you ever use any Dent? Did you ever have the opportunity to use any Dent?
I haven't, but I would like to take a look at it because, I've heard some good things about it.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. All I can tell you is when you want to do Dent, my price will be 10% lower than Kenny's.
Well, you're close, too.
No, I'm just teasing about. Check these guys out, dentinstruments.com. And with that, Kenny Smyers, we got to do the very special exit. We'll see if Fred's been paying attention, if he knows the secret handshake, so to speak. So here we go. We're gonna do the outro right now. So that's it. Another week of Control Talk Now, the Smart Buildings video and podcast for the week ending July 26, 2015. I am Eric Stromquist. He is Ken Smyers, and we have been joined by Fred Gordy. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. You got do that again.
What?
You got to say indeed, Kenny Smyers. It's a signature sign off. Okay, so we'll just do it. Okay, so remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. There you go. Big fun.